Hello, everyone. As you're listening to this episode, you're going to find out very quickly that for some reason, Toby's microphone was not properly plugged into the mixer. So you're going to hear a few times where it sounds like there's no one talking, or just a little bit. I tried kind of editing around it, and that did not seem to work very well. So just accept that about 20 minutes you're not going to hear much of Toby, and then all of a sudden we figure it out. So hopefully that's not too much of a problem. Other than that, enjoy the episode. Hello, and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy episode number, what is this? 73. 73. There you go, Brock. Thanks. I knew I hired you for some reason.
You hired me?
Yeah, since when?
Yeah, never. Episode 73 of the Comic Conspiracy podcast for the week of September 3rd, 2012. Obviously, we are joined by the lovely and talented Brock Sager.
Lovely and talented? Really?
Sorry, I lied.
Yeah.
Talented.
Yeah, thank you.
You're so happy, Brock. You sound so enthused. I know you want to be here, don't you?
I'm excited.
Nice. Who else we got here?
And Charlie.
Hey, guys, how's it going?
Yay.
Good.
Now, we are here this week to talk about something that happened early on in our podcasting days. Big change to our status quo of everything we know about comic books, at least in the modern day. And that was the launch of DC Comics New 52, the relaunch of all their books. It was a pretty big event. Mm-hmm. Decided, hey, I think we did like a kind of a 6-month rundown.
Yeah, we did.
We did that first month.
We did the first rundown, then we did a 6-month rundown.
And now we're at 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
1 year later, DC New 52. I'm totally going to have to make the 1 year later logo, like somehow work in New 52 with it or something. 1 year later was DC's
You're just going to be rejiggering it
thing.
in Adobe?
No. I will never rejigger anything. So DC Comics New 52 has been around for a year.
We've established this. Move on.
Yeah. And what a year it was.
Oh, yeah.
Let's
had some ups, had some downs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had some surprises.
A little bit. Sorry, I'm getting my stuff here. All right, there we go. What do you guys think? Just real quick.
Overall?
Well, we're 1 year in.
1 year in, I think most of the titles are doing, basically what they were doing before, if not better. I think I read somewhere there was only like a handful of titles that were actually worse than their numbers before. But it wasn't like a substantial drop.
So, compiling the top 5 list made me realize exactly how many really good books there are. So, for me, just in terms of a reader, there's no week that I'm not looking at the shelf going, wow, there's like 6 of these books that are within sort of like the top tiers of quality right now. And
bullshit around for a minute here. I'm going to pull up some numbers. We can talk about some specifics. So, with Toby, I know you're not current on everything like that, but you've been actively reading a couple of your favorite titles. Yeah. I know early on you were trying to keep up on a good majority of them, but like everyone,
Lost touch with Teen Titans.
Yeah, what are you?
Some of the crossovers.
The culling.
Kind of stopped caring.
Yeah.
It's sad because I really love those now. But they had the seeds of Gen 13 and went away 3. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But I gotta say, Wonder Woman's definitely not surprised that I didn't think I was gonna like that much and kept reading in some of the others.
Cool.
Yeah.
You've been happy with kind of the way a lot of these guys have turned out.
Weird. Like I like the things they're doing with Batman, but also like that. I said it before, and be a record point. I miss my Nightwing, Robin history. It's what it is. So I like the new stories. I do hope that somehow, some way, it gets to please everybody. How maybe merge to reality, or who knows what happens. I don't know. Maybe.
I did find myself wondering, and I don't know the answer to this, so I'm wondering if any of you do. So they've established Barbara was in the wheelchair for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Did they establish whether or not she was ever Oracle?
I don't think they did.
I haven't. Not in Batgirl.
Yeah, I don't think they've talked about Oracle.
Yeah.
They kind of just moved on.
Yeah, I was just curious because...
Yeah, it's like the Killing Joke happened, but Oracle seems to have not happened.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Kind of
But I'm not reading Birds of Prey, so I wouldn't. I don't know if that book reveals anything.
Nah, it hasn't really. It's since they worked in Poison Ivy and stuff, it's been a very sort of concise story, so they haven't really talked about the history much.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's something I could say for a lot of the New 52 in general, and that's the one thing that has kind of failed for me so far is, as a comic history guy, I don't really care if such and such has happened or didn't happen. I just want to know.
Yeah. Well, we will find out starting this week with the new DC number 0 issues
That's
that are
what I'm
coming out.
hoping.
I think we're going to find out a lot of the backstory to things that have happened over the last few years. And
Except for titles like Green Lantern, which will still be continuing the story.
Right. But there'll be new stuff to them.
Yeah.
I actually
And
pulled
then Justice League is the Shazam, the Captain Marvel. Shazam, Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Which I was bummed we didn't get that short story in the back of 12.
Oh, that's true.
We didn't actually get the continuation story.
They just didn't want to put anything after the kissing.
Oh, yes. Except a bunch of these scenes from the Justice League coming this year.
Which is fucking insane.
Wait, what did I miss?
You pulled up some numbers.
Yeah, no. Go back. Finish. What were you saying? Like I was pulling up some numbers.
There
and
was,
we just reset.
there was no Shazam
Oh,
backup
yeah,
in
yeah,
issue
yeah,
12,
yeah.
but
Yeah,
they had
yeah.
the splash pages for next year.
Yeah.
Right,
Year
right.
2 of Justice League.
Well, and this is something,
2013 of Justice League.
and this is something Jeff Johns has done in a number of titles, starting back with I want to say Flash. I think he did that in Flash before Green Lantern, but I could be wrong. Where he kind of had this, this one little splash page at the end of all this cool stuff coming up, and I love those. Those are so much fun.
I love those, but the fact that it's specifically, this is upcoming in the second year of Justice League,
Yeah.
that was a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, we're getting ready for the Trinity War and all that, so.
Well, that's
I think-
part of the reason I was surprised that there was so much to show there with so many different things. It's like, wow, you're going to cram that in, and you have the Trinity War coming up.
I like to tease these days.
Well, I'm looking at some numbers here. The July 2012 estimates are up, going back to look at July and August of 2011. Just kind of seeing where DC was right before, things got relaunched. Obviously, in August, Justice League number 1 came out with estimated 171,000 sales of number 1. But looking more specifically at, the typical DC titles, we have a mostly Marvel-dominated top 10 list here, even mostly Marvel-dominated top 20. You have, War of the Green Lantern, Aftermath, Flashpoint, obviously up high. You could go down to number 15 before you hit a kind of a real DC book, which is Batman Incorporated, Green Lantern Corps, Batman Dark Knight, Batman and Robin, those closing out almost the top 20 there, and the Batman coming in at number 20. Batman sales, 51,000 copies. Let's just keep that number in mind, okay? You go back to July, you're looking for Justice League. You're coming down here in 32nd place at 43,000 copies. The next month, Justice League goes up to 171,000. About 250,000, I think, overall, between all the printings.
I just, in terms of sort of a little bit of curiosity, since I don't remember checking into this back at the time, but was there any dip in sales right before New 52?
This was a fear that stores had that people were going to drop the books, but I didn't notice any sale dips. We gained a little bit of sales because of all the Flashpoint miniseries. They all did pretty well for us here. Overall, they helped DC. They gave them basically like 20 new titles to sell, 15, 20 copies each for a store. And at that point, man, I was moving like 12 copies. It's so funny because this is exactly what happened. Where DC's higher books were at that point is almost like their cancellation point now, because we were selling like just in store, personally, not their sales chart numbers, but books that are getting canceled now are selling, for us, 10, 12 copies. That's kind of, those books are the ones getting axed. With the exception of a book like Justice League International or Resurrection Man, which Resurrection Man we actually do really well with.
Yeah.
Justice League International, I think, is just more, they just want a different direction for the title.
Yeah.
But stuff like Justice Society of America, we were selling like maybe 12 or 15 copies. Justice League was like maybe 20 or 25 copies. Like, these are their top-selling books. Batman, like, okay, we were selling like 40 or something like that, but, it wasn't that much. Now let's jump to July 2012, and I think the August ones may be out, but I don't see them here. We still have...
They're probably not because it is Labor Day.
Well, no, I think they've already put up the August ones, but or maybe they haven't. We have Image number 1 with Walking Dead number 100.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a bit different. And AVX is still doing a strong showing at second and third place, and then number 7. But Batman number 4 at 127,000 copies. Justice League number 5 at 5th at 123,000 copies. Before Watchmen, Ozymandias is in there. Detective Comics, Green Lantern, Action Comics, Minutemen, Dark Knight, Earth 2, Batman and Robin, and another Before Watchmen. I mean, all coming in the top 10, or I'm sorry, all in the top 20. Sales on most of these books,
So
2 to 3 times what they were prior.
Just out of curiosity, where's Aquaman now?
Aquaman is, let's see, where is Aquaman? Aquaman's at 27th place. Aquaman's feeling the dip here. It was top 10 for a while.
Yeah.
Aquaman's still selling. I'll tell you what. And here's just, here just goes to show how stores can be different. I did a count. We have 28 DC titles outselling every Marvel title outside of Avengers versus X-Men. I'm looking at Aquaman here at 27th place. The ones above it, Spider-Man, we sell twice as much Aquaman. Amazing Spider-Man, same. Wolverine, we sell 6 times as much Aquaman as Wolverine. Wolverine sucks ass. Like, that book does not sell for us. Wolverine and the X-Men, we sell about half as many times Aquaman as Wolverine and the X-Men. New Avengers and Avengers, we sell about 50% more. Uncanny X-Men, about 50% more. Then AVX, it's kind of, a little bit less. So, yeah, it's crazy. So, I don't know if that's Aquaman slipping or the other ones just coming up because of the crossover, but there you go. So, overall, I mean, if there's a question of, has DC's New 52 succeeded on a sales level? Yes, clearly. I mean, this has been such an amazing success for DC and every store that really went on.
Well, it's a success because, I mean, they originally wanted to try and get new readership, but it actually brought in a lot of lapsed, so many more lapsed readers.
They wanted lapsed readers. They wanted lapsed readers, and they got new readers as well.
Yeah.
For me, that's really the strength behind this, and I know I was talking about it in the shop recently, that I kind of feel like there's a lot of people who got out of comics because their shops closed, because of they were given a stopping point, so they just sort of stopped reading. And it's amazing to have an event that really brings those people back in. Just the amount of people who sort of come in nowadays and sort of talk about how, well, I've kind of been out of touch for a while, and I'm trying to get sort of caught up on what's going on in these books that I'm really enjoying, and where should I start? And I'm getting that a lot more regularly than I used to when the Sundays I work here.
I still have, we had a customer call up yesterday, on Saturday, looking for a few of the number ones we still had in stock. We're getting down to the tail end on most of them. But yeah, the people still coming in a year later, coming in trying to pick up from the beginning. Every day I have someone coming in trying to get, I need the last 6 issues of this book, or I want to catch up on this. I mean, it happens so regularly, and our sales continue to be phenomenal for the DC books.
Well, I mean, I've noticed too that, at least with DC, of the ordering over the course of the year, it's been consistent and stuff, but when we put it on the wall, it still has a sell-through.
Oh, yeah.
Even, the shelf copies will sit there, but it sells through, halfway through the year. I mean, at the 12 mark now, like you said, we still have a little bit, but those first 6 issues, virtually gone.
Yeah, because of the trade paperbacks, most of the early issues are out of print, and DC's not reprinting them. A couple, Batman and Justice League, they seem to be going back to press on a pretty regular basis. Although, going forward, I don't think we'll see any more, but it's possible.
I think once the trades come out for those ones,
then they kind of stop them. Yeah. Well, not everything has been, amazing and, big sales and flowers and roses for DC. They've had a handful of books that just didn't succeed, whether on a kind of a level that they wanted or whether it's financial level. There's been some random kind of controversy about DC over the past few years. A bunch of random stuff. But the canceled titles, I think we'll go talk about these guys real quick. So the first batch, they were canceled: Mr. Terrific, Static Shock, Hawk and Dove, OMAC, Blackhawks, and Men of War. And I think when we did our 6-month, we knew this list already, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we all knew these were the cancellation books.
The second wave is a very different list.
Yeah.
Justice League International, clearly because of direction, not because of I would think sales.
The book is good. I enjoyed reading Justice League International. It wasn't great, but it was a fair read.
Yeah, they just ended it with Justice League International Annual #1, which shipped this last week.
Awesome.
Yeah,
and
really good book.
And they're going to be. It looks like. I mean, well, it doesn't look like it is. It's directly tied into the launch of Justice League of America #1 by Jeff Johns, and David Finch will be coming out later this year. Now, I don't know if you guys took this exactly the way I did, but did you read that article on Bleeding Cool? They were talking about possibly this tying into maybe Jeff Johns trying to do some sort of Twilight of the Superheroes.
I read
DC.
something about that Twilight of the Superheroes, that Alan Moore story arc that they had talked about, back in the, was it 80s, 90s?
Twilight of the Superheroes was originally the sequel to Crisis on Infinite Earths. It was it was kind of penned by Alan Moore. It was going to be this sort of future of DC where, kind of like Kingdom Come, where all these the big superheroes all form their houses. John Constantine was kind of at the center of it, and then it was sort of this war between all the different superhero houses. Reading Justice League International, that annual, like Booster Gold, like disappearing, right? I mean, he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah, it's not exactly 100% clear if he got wiped out because his future no longer exists or something else is going on there.
Right. Now, maybe this is just trying to lead into the Trinity War, maybe something else, but I like this possibility that that series could happen. That they could be building to this instead of the Kingdom Come universe, which is something they were building to very heavily in the main DC universe prior to the relaunch.
You had talked about this Twilight of the Superheroes before, because there was the Twilight of the Superheroes, and then there was another story arc that got shelved, across, but I don't remember. I think that was by Morrison. Was it? No.
Multiversity?
That's
that's supposed to be out next year.
Yeah.
That's what he says every year.
The pre-52, I don't really feel like they were building towards Kingdom Come. In fact, with
they introduced GOG, they introduced
with the Justice Society of America, when they introduced Magog and everything.
Yeah.
The point of that was to avoid getting to the Kingdom Come. It was basically avoiding that being their future.
There was a lot of Kingdom Come, Red Robin.
Oh, no, I'm not saying there wasn't a lot of Kingdom Come and that they weren't sort of shifting gears like it could go that direction, but I also kind of started to read it specifically because of the Thy Kingdom Come storyline within the JSA, where they were really kind of going, this is where the universe seems to be headed, but this is what we have to avoid.
Yeah. I suppose it's possible.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that, you're it sounds kind of right. Twilight, the Twilight of the Superheroes, where you're talking about them, breaking off into houses. It almost feels like that's what Trinity War is. It's not Twilight completely, but it's taking aspects of it.
Well, what they're doing with this Trinity War, obviously we don't know till the book comes out or till they actually, really do anything more and announce it. But
anything more than a splash page?
Yeah. But to me, I think the Trinity, and this is something that seems pretty obvious from that preview, or from that teaser book, is not that it's the Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman Trinity, which we've mentioned this before, but that it's Pandora, the Question, and Phantom Stranger, who were the Trinity that was introduced within the DC Free Comic Book Day. So the war of them. They're fighting the Shazams, or
but
what are they doing?
See that fits a little bit better with houses, because if you're, what's going on in Justice League Dark with John Constantine and all that stuff. There's a lot of stuff moving towards that, more kind of making it the mystical houses versus what we've seen in the past. With the Trinity is always, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. So now it's this is a Trinity of kind of a different type.
See, the way I kind of look at that being the title is, I have a feeling it's going to be something that has a lot of different meanings within the actual story.
Yeah.
So I don't think saying it's going to be in reference to just one thing. I kind of get the impression it's going to be in reference to a lot of meanings, basically.
The Trinity War? Right.
Yeah.
Well, because, it seems like they're each taking Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman as kind of the heads of the Trinity, just because they're yeah.
And that was sort of the big thing at the end of Justice League International, was sort of highlighting the Wonder Woman, Superman getting together as potentially a very, very bad thing for the future.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there might be the whole, you can't let these houses unite, if you want to say it that way.
Yeah, I'm looking here. The houses were the House of Steel, presided over by Superman and his wife, Wonder Woman. The House of Thunder, consisting of the Marvel family, who they are now bringing back pretty heavily, as well as houses built around Teen Titans, the Justice League, and an alliance of supervillains. So, yeah. And then, Shadow Cabal of non-powered heroes from DC and Pulp Fiction, led by Batman. That seems reasonable. And the Green Lantern Corps, and the Aliens, Green Lantern Corps, Thanagarians, and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I could see this being something they could work up to, and I think DC does. Part of the article on Bleeding Cool was that DC does own the rights to the story, so they pissed off Alan Moore once before Watchmen. Now they could piss him off by printing Twilight of the Superheroes by Jeff Johns, and oh man, that would be so good. I could care less. Screw you, Alan Moore. I want my Twilight of the Superheroes by Jeff Johns.
See, to me, it just you sold me on Jeff Johns.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, but
you could tell me Jeff Johns is writing anything, and I'd be like, "Oh, that's going to be great."
There were 3 other books that got canceled. Captain Atom, which I remember Charlie early on, that was a favorite of yours.
On,
but
I really liked it.
I think he fell off.
It's another one of those where it got a little too caught up in the aspects of exploring the character's powers and what it could potentially mean, that there was no story to sort of ground it.
Well, and the story that was trying to ground it wasn't strong enough to ground it.
Resurrection Man, which I know favorite.
I was fucking pissed off at that one.
I think.
Well,
damn.
At least me and Brock, Charlie, I think you're a fan too.
Oh yeah, I'm a fan, and here's for me what I hope when they cancel titles. I always hope they give me a satisfying enough conclusion that it sort of can shift into mini-series in my head versus series in my head, and at this point, because the way that last issue ended, it could go either way at this point with the issue 0.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they can pull it off with the issue 0, that this becomes a really good, like... I hate it when a series like this just sort of abruptly ends to the point where I can't even really suggest it anymore because I know you're never going to get the payoff. Versus if they can give me the payoff in the issue 0, then it will flat out be something I continue to suggest to people as just a good miniseries.
Now, what about Voodoo? That's the last of the canceled ones. Toby, I think you liked Voodoo early on, didn't you?
Yeah.
You stick with it, or?
No, I think I got to issue 6-ish.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know how it ended. I actually thought it was going to end around 8. So I had no clue it went beyond that.
Oh, okay.
I was confused when I saw more issues. I really thought it was just going to end at 8. So
Yeah.
I bought the issues, just haven't read them.
Sorry, it's crap.
Nah, no.
I thought
I'm not collecting that at all. Then, in the end.
What number is Toby? I'll edit this out.
5.
5? I'm getting like, oh shit. Toby's 5?
Yeah.
Talk, Toby.
Hello?
We may not have had Toby on mic.
That's all right. I only had 2 segments. I could dub to 2 segments and then you could edit it in.
We'll figure this out as we go. So if you're joining us now and you've been wondering why we've been talking and no one's been answering, that's because Toby's mic was apparently not on our board. I was wondering why I was getting like no signal here. So Toby, welcome back to the podcast.
Hello!
I'm
Yay!
actually just wondering why you didn't catch that with your headphones.
I could hear it in my headphones. That's the thing that's freaking me out. I see it on here, but I saw no recording, and I was like, wait, what's happening? I was like, that's really low? Anyway, Toby, you were saying Voodoo.
Yeah. Well, I didn't say anything very important. I was saying I didn't know. I went past 8. I thought 8 was the last issue, and I stopped reading around 6 and thought that was going to be more or less it. In a couple issues, and I went beyond that. So, yeah, early on I did like it. It was more for the art. It was kind of a cool take, but yeah, the story's just kind of Yeah, it's nothing special.
Well, as a giant Wildstorm fan, what's your take on where they've gone with the Wildstorm characters since the relaunch?
I feel like they wanted to place the seeds the right way, and I feel like they changed their minds halfway through multiple times.
Yeah.
So they don't know what they're doing with them at this point. Because they forced what's his name, the guy who lashed out on the internet.
Oh, Liefeld.
Yeah. They forced him to put Voodoo into the Grifter book and combine them, which makes sense. But if you had them kind of separate to begin with, why would you combine them now, right? You might as well do a Wildcats book at that point, right?
That's actually the thing that surprised me the most about the cancellations thus far. It's like OMAC gets canceled, so they immediately move him into Justice League International.
So it's like the characters they don't cancel; it's more the book itself. Yeah,
it's like they don't want to go. Okay, this story's not working. They want to give people a way to keep reading that.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even mind. I mean, shifting Voodoo over to Grifter, you kind of keep the Wildstorm guys together. I wouldn't even mind if like Voodoo becomes a backup story in Grifter or something like that. But to me, it feels like the whole Wildstorm universe, they wanted to do something cool with it, but it doesn't seem like they have a clear way. Or I don't know, maybe Team 7 will change it all. Who knows?
That's what I'm really looking for.
Yeah, I mean,
because I think that's the proper way to do it. If you're going to make the Wildstorm guys part of the DC Universe, really make them part of the DC Universe.
Yeah.
Because or make the DC Universe part of them. Because obviously Grifter, Voodoo, I've kind of just ignored, and they've
Voodoo, you had Cal show up, but that was kind of it. It almost feels like a crossover between, the 90s, where it's like a Marvel DC crossover. It almost feels like Kyle from the DC universe is showing up in the Wildstorm universe.
Yeah, Team 7 at least seems very, very important to the entire DC universe, especially having Amanda Waller and Steve Trevor on the team, and then all the Wildstorm guys. Plus
so I'm really looking forward to that book, and hopefully then we get kind of a clear view of what's going to happen with these characters that I really like. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I read it all through Voodoo, but I really like that first issue. I enjoyed.
Yeah,
immensely.
The first issue is fantastic.
And then that first story arc, you were kind of okay, but then it was probably about issue 7, which you didn't get to, where the feeling of the book changed, where it was like, okay, and the Blackhawks actually moved into that book. Funny you're mentioning that.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where it just the tone changed. And then with this last story arc, it's kind of left open-ended, and you go, okay, but now it's like they want her to go and be on Grifter's book, so...
Which will or will not happen, we don't know, right? Yeah. Now, like I said, I wouldn't even mind if she becomes a backup story in Grifter, but who knows if Grifter's sticking around now, right? So, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, Team 7, safety, Wildstorm, well, don't want to say universe at this point, but
save the Wildstorm characters.
The Wildstorm characters in the DC universe, please.
It's kind of weird because reading a lot of those early issues of like Grifter and like even
which early before 52 or after?
After.
Okay.
But reading those like early issues and reading some of the stuff they were doing with the Damonites all over the place, it really seemed like they were building to something with them.
Yeah.
And then they started to backpedal that.
Yeah, like, shit, we're not going to go that way anymore. Let's make this go away.
They did that with Superman with Hellspawn. They totally introduced it and then nothing.
Yeah, it was like with 2 issues, like 7 and 8, where he's like, we're going to have a discussion, and then it's like, poof, it disappeared.
Well, then they pick up on that in the annual.
Pick up and,
I hate to bring up the whole
all over the place.
Yeah, I hate to bring up the whole Liefeld thing again, but that's one of the things either him or I want to say someone else was pointing out that they had storylines planned, and then editorial will come in and say, no, we want to do this story, so they kind of backpedaled on their own stories just to wrap around in the long term. Like, what was that on the Hellspawn one to come back in the annual?
Well, we talked about this a little bit, but I mean, let's talk about some of the controversies over DC and being very editorial driven over creative driven is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
This is a thing where I think it's a very difficult for people, for fans to think like, oh, why don't you just have the writers write whatever's awesome and let everyone else?
Well, it's not always awesome.
Well, it's not only awesome, but
sometimes it's awesome, sometimes it's bad.
Well, you also have this living, breathing world where you have 52 or 56 or something books that are not independent of each other. They are very much, some of these books are very much tied in with each other.
Well, otherwise you can get like a Nolan universe of Batman that's completely different in the Superman universe and so on,
here's the thing I don't understand, and this is just me as a reader and stuff, just don't understand this. So, Green Lantern has had a specific, this is the direction the book is going, and to some degree you could say that because everybody knew where it was going, there's some stories that have kind of teetered on the brink of not being very good within like the Red Lantern book and that kind of stuff. But there's been a clear, this is the direction the Green Lantern story is going. Everybody's obviously known this since the 52 relaunch. I mean, they had already been building up towards the Third Army. So you can see editorial and stuff keeping those books within sort of that mindset and framework. And that I don't have a problem with. What I don't really understand is this, okay, this is the direction we're going with the Daemonites. Oh, no, we're not. Okay, we're going to do this crossover with Superman. Oh, no, we're not.
Well,
we're going to...
Yeah.
I don't understand why they're starting, stopping, interrupting. Like, why wasn't there a overall, this is the direction we're going in Batman, therefore everything kind of has to fit within that
First of all, it's...
house when it... Like, why are these changes happening on a day-to-day basis versus, okay, we plan out the next year, and then we all get together and we plan out the next year, and then we all get together. Like, why are things changing so rapidly?
Yeah, totally. I mean, first of all, it's easy to hack slash DC about it because it's very, very hard to plan all this crazy stuff out. So, it's not easy. But on the other hand, also, crap, I lost my train of thought. I had it, and then I let you speak out. Sorry, Charlie.
Well, let me say, in the case of, let's say, a book like Superboy, right?
Yeah.
Tied in with the Teen Titans, tied in with Superman. You have a case where this character can play in either universe.
Yeah.
I think there's an example where the Superman guys say, we want to do this story. The Teen Titan guys are like, but we're doing the Culling. Superboy is going to be here that month in the Culling crossover. You can't do, because, so there's a bit of miscommunication between the editorial teams. I think what ends up happening with most of these characters and the concepts within the books is you have the creator and you have the editor driving the main book forward, but DC has made a very conscious effort, for good or for bad, to be these books remain very independent of each other, but there are also a lot of crossovers happening. The books feel like they all kind of are in their own universe, and I think most of the books have done a good job with that, feeling very... insular is maybe not the right word to use, but they feel very, very, very special. They all have their own. They're all doing their own things. I read some of the Bendis Avengers books, and it's like you can have Avengers and Avengers and New Avengers, and like there's no difference between the books. Like they're not very unique. And maybe it's just because it's the same writer.
Yeah,
but
DC is doing a good job at that.
I think DC is making each book stand out, but they're focusing heavily on crossovers, inner book crossovers, taking two very distinct titles and New Guardians and Blue Beetle, let's say, or maybe something Animal-Man and Swamp Thing, which is a little more of a natural crossover, and tying them in, and it's interesting to see how it's working because some are clearly working and some aren't. In the case of the Superman ones, I bet they're like, you know what, no, abort, this isn't going to work. Let's wait. Now we'll do this hell story, which looks dumb, but whatever. That's fine.
I kind of remember what I was going to say now. It seems like the Jeff Johns storylines, or the ones he's spearheading, have this clear pathway where it's going.
It's Scott Snyder.
And it's Scott Snyder. And it seems like all the rest are kind of like, we're going to do this. No, stop, go this way. Let's go that way. It kind of seems like that a little.
And the pretty constant creative shifts on books by the head writers are getting people switched over, and guys like Grant Morrison kind of leaving a lot of the titles. He's been writing superhero books for a long time, so him taking a break. Who's a Judd Winnick left, a couple other guys left. So, Liefeld, obviously.
Yeah.
It's
really? I didn't hear that.
Yeah. I think the problem, though, and this is what I always get with people. Oh, creative! You got to be creative. These people are not. These aren't their characters. They didn't. And Brock, swear to God, if you fucking. These aren't their characters. They work for the company. The company dictates their terms. It's great when a company says, go fun, have at it, go wild, go do what you want. And they could do that. But there are times when they pull them back. And we discussed this a few weeks ago, and Jim Shooter, longtime editor at Marvel, who people hated. He had some of the best books Marvel ever published under his during his time there, because he was like, no, I have a very clear vision. Let's go forward, and you all are my people. Do my bidding, and we will go forward. And some people, creative people, hate that. But I mean, the example will be used. If you're working on the new Toy Story 4 or whatever, and you're like, no, I think I'm going to draw in a different way. Like, that doesn't work, right? You're part of this big team.
Woody is going to do some hack slash, and he's got a chainsaw. And...
I think the issue that you were talking about with the editorial is that I think that the problem at DC is that, yes, you have those big, editorials that have been going since even before this New 52 happened with the Batman and with Green Lantern. Those have carried over. A lot of aspects of the stuff that Johns was doing and the stuff that Morrison was doing has carried over into this New 52. But I think what it is that DC is trying to give you, yes, those unique titles, those individual and unique titles, but at the same time they're trying to blend everything. But you can't blend two editorial staffs, like you said. You have Superboy, who can go to over to the Superman family, but also over to Teen Titans. Well, now we have this problem. I think what it is overshadowing.
It's also making a binding problem.
Yeah, that too. When you look at it, I think there's not just a kind of one general, like, where are we going with DC with the Trinity War? That's the big thing that we're working towards. So everyone needs to be, kind of.
Well, you have these smaller events leading, and now you're going to a bigger event.
Exactly. So it's one of those things where I've used, and this is, I will give Marvel credit where Marvel credit is due, and a lot of people missed out on this, was everything after One More Day was fantastic, because you had 4 creative teams that were on 4 Spider-Man titles now working on one title. So one creative team would work on a 3-story arc. It would come out 1 month, and then they'd get a break, and they'll be working on their next arc that was coming out in like 3 months. So you had all this stuff, but there was an editorial board that said, this is what needs to happen because this is the vision we have for Spider-Man. So you can go and you can have the Hammerhead story that you want to do, and you want to have the Vulture story that you want to do, and you want to have this weird new
Hammerhead. That's digging deep, dude.
I know. You can have this new, like, tech savvy, like, recording or crimes kind of criminal, but you have to have this vein running through it. And I mean, they do it in TV shows all the time with like CSI and shows that things are happening, but there's the background of the characters continues.
Right.
And I think that's what DC is kind of, in a sense, lacking on a lot of their books, because there is no there's no concise thing for them to come back to.
I just realized that I think we're being a little overly harsh.
Why?
And what I mean by that is...
You didn't have that before at all.
No. You look at the amount of titles that I have this complaint on, it's actually a pretty small list compared to all 52.
Yeah, no, there's... Of all the books that are published right now, there's maybe 10 I don't read, and of the ones I read that there's a handful that I'm like, it's a good thing I like these characters because these books aren't so hot. But when we're talking 40, 35 titles, you're talking 3/5 of the line is good to amazing.
Yeah,
like that's a great number.
And I'm just looking in terms of this editorial sense where you can tell it really fucking with the book. It almost seems like it's the Superman editorial staff.
Superman is totally... I will, as much as I love Action Comics, and as much as I actually do enjoy Superboy and Supergirl, Superman is all over the map, and they need to fix it.
And other than like the ones that they seem to be... All the ones they seem to be touching and then not touching seem to get affected by it, but it's like...
Do you think it's because it's Superman? DC is just like, and I hate to say this, it's one of the worst things ever said in the history of comic books, but it does bear repeating sometimes. Joe Quesada had a great line many, many years ago, probably about a decade ago, that said, DC's like it's in a porn, right? And it has Superman. They have the biggest dick, but they can't get it up, all right? I have to admit, this has been an ongoing problem with Superman for a good number of years. And I think DC needs to stop overthinking Superman. They really need to just let the character be the character. And people complain about Superman and Justice League, but I actually like him.
Yeah.
He's different. He's a bit of an ass. He's a bit, I don't want to say pompous, but he's definitely he's maybe a bit. Johns is at least trying to give him some form of different personality.
Yeah.
And action is amazing, but it's a very specific story that is not affecting all the other books.
Yeah.
The Superman book itself is like so all over the place. They need to just really get one voice on and be like, just tell some good Superman stories.
Yeah. Or make the book fun
And,
again. Like
I'm just
olden days.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking because, I mean, we rant and rave about Animal Man and Swamp Thing, and that's had a very clear direction, clear vision since
Absolutely.
the launch. I'm even thinking about stuff like Justice League Dark, Justice League International. You have other books like Demon Knights that are all their own. You don't really need to worry about crossovers or things affecting.
I think I think the reason why we're talking so heavily about this was we were talking about the cancellation books. I mean, and it was, you could tell with a lot of these books that, that's kind of why they were canceled, is that they backtracked. They couldn't figure it out. There wasn't anything concise to go through with it. But there was also other problems too, like Hawk and Dove was
Hawk and Dove was just crap,
and you couldn't look at it without wanting to gouge your eyes out. But yeah, I think it's no. DC's done a great job with like you said, like 3/5 of their line. But when you look at, you and I have talked about this, especially with the Lantern books, is that Green Lantern's awesome. Green Lantern Corps is solid, just like it was before. But when you get to reading the New Guardians and you get to read Red Lanterns,
I like the New Guardians.
I like it, but it's stretched. Like the whole arc this past year in those two books has felt overly stretched. Like we're still reading about this. We haven't moved past this. It's kind of like they're treading water, waiting for the Third Army to finally walk up to the line.
And this part of this just has to do with the fact that I was reading an interview that really hit this home in my head. The New Guardians book has been actually about trying to get people around Kyle to teach him, and that makes sense. And how aware are you of where they're going with New Guardians and Kyle?
Spoil it. It doesn't matter. He's not even caught up.
I'm like a couple issues back on pretty much all the titles, but that's fine.
So the whole point of the ring thief story, when all those rings came to Kyle, was to try and get Kyle to learn how to use each ring.
Right.
So that's where that book's going now, is more like, I guess I can coin this with Avatar a little bit. The whole idea of, okay, Kyle has the potential within him to master these different emotional spectrums.
So is he going to be the Rainbow Lantern?
He might be.
Hey.
That's what it's sounding like. It sounds like he's like, you look at the solicitation and the latest previews, and it talks about him learning fear, learning how to master the power of fear. And I think that gives that book a very singular direction, and it also elevates Kyle again where he
Makes
should
me kind of want to
be.
read it.
And I just love Red Lanterns because it's just atrocious. It's just monologuing for half the issue and just being like, God damn it, Bleeze, you suck. I'm just going to sit here and rage and rant, and it's so good.
You just like all the blood spilling out of everyone's mouth.
Is it like Frank Miller ranting in his head?
It's just atrocious. It's just yelling and being so mad about everything.
But that's where I started to get... This is where I think Red Lanterns fell a little short. The beginning issues were great. I loved all the backup stories with the history. I liked Atrocitus trying to figure out exactly what he was going to do with his core now that he kind of had the body of the person he wanted to kill. And the fact that his vengeance had been taken from him and that in some ways was affecting his rage. So all that I personally thought was really interesting, really good. But then the second story arc, I wasn't really into the quote-unquote bad guy. And it basically became a lot of Atrocitus whining and not so much raging. And Atrocitus shouldn't whine. He should just rage.
Well, I'll tell you what, Charlie. You can tell us how much you hate Red Lanterns in just a minute here, okay? We're going to do our top 5 list, but before then... I think I want to try something before that. I think I want to try something here real quick. So there are every title is broken down into a family. Hey, it goes back to our talk earlier. I think I actually want to go through these families. I want us to get us all to, because people say there's not a lot of dissenting opinions on this podcast, and I guarantee you our top 5 lists are going to be very similar. A lot of crossover between those lists, but let's see if we can maybe even narrow these down a little bit further here. Before we even get to our top 5 list, so there's all the families. So I'm going to read the books here from these families, and let's get a general consensus here, and I think then we'll go with our top list after that.
Okay.
So Justice League. The Justice League family, pretty obvious. Justice League, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Fury of Firestorm for some reason, Green Arrow, Savage Hawkman, and I believe Earth 2 and World's Finest are now considered part of the Justice League family, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, yeah.
Of those books, give me your best and give me your worst. Let's hit it quick. Let's do this fast. Brock, start with you.
Probably for me, it'd have to be, like, not team book, just...
No, whatever. Of those
family
books I just
It
listed.
isn't that family.
I would say Justice League is the best and Wonder Woman's the worst.
Okay.
What?
Toby?
Opposite, or not quite. Wonder Woman one of the better.
Yep.
And I don't have a worst because I'm not up to reading, so I don't want to call it worst.
Okay. And that worst isn't even like that's maybe kind of a mean thing.
Maybe Firestorm.
Just
Don't kill me, Firestorm fans.
Just
I
the
haven't
one
haven't
like,
read it.
whatever it didn't work for you, or the one you're like least interested in here, because it would actually be
probably
interesting.
Firestorm.
It'll be interesting.
But I never cared for Firestorm.
You know,
so-
Firestorm actually got a lot better after they switched creative teams.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be interesting just because I want to see kind of if we can maybe pick some of the next books to get canceled here. So let's see
can
if
we
we can
get
do that.
Amanda Connor back on the World's Finest?
That'd be
Well,
cool.
not back on, but
On
you
it.
know what I mean.
Yeah,
On it.
Charlie.
I actually agree with Toby for the most part. I would say Justice League is the best for me,
Yeah.
but I couldn't even make it past the first issue of Fury of Firestorm.
Start with 7. I'm going to say I'm actually going to give it to my boy Aquaman here. I love Justice League, but Aquaman, I'm so blown away with how good Aquaman is. Worst is Green Arrow. That book has disappointed me on every level since it started, and
Did you read that in your list of families?
Yeah.
Oh,
They
okay.
need to fix Green Arrow. I almost want to say Earth 2 for my favorite here, but
I mean, Earth 2 and World's Finest are kind of separate. Like, they're
They're in a
both-
family, but they're like alternate
Yeah,
realities.
right.
I love that.
Like,
Yeah.
Earth 2 is amazing, and
Yeah.
World's Finest is just fun.
yeah.
So,
All right, let's do Batman here real quick. Okay, you guys ready?
this one's going to be hard.
Batman,
Yep.
Detective, Dark Knight, Batman and Robin, Batman Incorporated. It's a lot of Batman.
That's all Batman books.
Yep, Batgirl, Batwoman, Nightwing, Catwoman, Batwing, Birds of Prey, and Red Hood. It's a lot of books. There's a lot of Batman books. People love them. Brock, hit me. Batman's your favorite.
Duh.
Okay. Any of those? What didn't work for you?
Honestly, what didn't work probably for the Bat book.
I know you haven't liked Batgirl, huh?
No, I like Batgirl.
Oh, okay.
It's
I thought you didn't.
Like, I haven't read Birds of Prey because I was never into it before.
Birds of Prey is good. I actually, every time I read Birds of Prey, I'm surprised how good it is.
But I think overall, it would have to be Detective and a tie between Detective and Batwoman. Like, Detective, I mean, after that first issue, you had, Joker's face hanging on the wall. It was awesome. But that book just didn't really go anywhere.
Shouldn't live it up.
It didn't live up, and
Okay.
Batwoman's story in that second arc, it was virtually unreadable without having like a timeline in front of you, like a DC AR crap to say this is when this happens.
Toby.
So yeah,
Well,
Didn't mean to cut you off there, Brock. We got a
no,
long
you
list.
didn't mean to go.
We got a long
Close,
list.
it's
We got a
okay.
long list.
I like the Snyder. However, I'm always saying it wrong. I know someone pointed it out before. I like
Scott
his-
Snyder?
Yeah, I like his Batman.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
I think that's one of the better ones. I still like my Barber and my Birds.
Yeah.
Still completely miss Oracle. The one. See, it's weird. I like Red Hood and the Outlaws. Don't get me wrong. And I know one of the guys on the forums is putting it as number 1 in his top 5. I'm not disrespecting it. I just don't feel it's part of that family. Like, Jason Todd, I feel like they don't know what to do with him right now. It's like, to me, Red Hood on the Outlaws is not a Batman book. it's kind of somewhere out there. It's probably more a Teen Titans book more than.
Here, I'll tell you how it's the black sheep of the Batman family.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, but if you think of it that way, that's
Yeah,
why
but
they
it
put it in.
doesn't have to be though. I mean, originally when they brought Red Hood in, I always felt like, man, if they make him like one of the Rogues Gallery bad guys, have one of the Robins be one of the up there with like Two-Face and Penguin and the Red Hood, that would have been badass, But now that he's kind of like good, kind of punish-ish. Yeah, I don't know. I love the art. Don't get me wrong. I love Ken Rockefort, even though he's moving over to Superman. I think, right?
Yeah.
I think,
which is weird.
Yeah,
That's weird.
Well, you're gonna have top tier artists. Well, in my mind, at least, on a big book just to help. So yeah, there you go.
Charlie.
So Batman definitely the best for me.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have a cop-out for the worst. The worst goes back and forth between Detective and Dark Knight for me, because in terms of when I'm not digging Dark Knight, Detective's working for me, and when I'm not digging Detective, Dark Knight's working for me. It's just kind of weird in those 12 issues how certain story arcs have been better than others for me between those two books.
Yeah. For me, I'm sorry to. This is like the Dark Knight podcast all over again. But sorry to claim Batman. But I mean, come on, Batman. Batman's so amazing. Batman's the best. Batwing, I kind of just wasn't interested in.
Yeah,
so
me neither.
I'm not going to say that's like the worst. Dark Knight has gone back and forth. I feel like I have no idea what's going on in that book half the time. Now I haven't read the last couple since I switched to creative team. I think I just read his first issue. But I feel like I just didn't kind of get it. Tony Daniel on Detective, I've always gone back and forth how much I enjoyed it. Sometimes I feel like his storytelling isn't the best, but I always liked his art. And I love David Finch's art, but I feel like the Dark Knight book I'm just kind of a little bit lost on. So I guess that's my worst. Superman. Real short and sweet. Action. Superman. Superboy. Supergirl. Don't do it, Brock. Don't do it.
What? Superman's the best and action's the worst. I'm sorry.
Okay, I got to take this outside. I don't even want to hear your opinion why.
Well, I know you don't.
Tell me your opinion why. It's
the Superman book for me.
Keep it short. So.
Yeah, really. Yeah. I actually read when I first read that first story arc with Perez. I really enjoyed it because I felt like I read a comic. It took me a little bit to read it. Some time to read it. It wasn't like this quick read, and I really enjoyed that. And
that's why Toby hated it.
Yeah, but they did a decent job of kind of establishing this new world for Superman, this new dynamic, changing kind of the game for the media outlet that he was going to be working with. Same with Lois and kind of all this stuff.
So what you're saying is the first issue for you was the best.
The first was the best.
Because after 2, it goes.
But I mean, this whole series had its ups and downs. But I enjoyed at least Superman because it stayed consistent within what it was. Whereas Action jumped around from being in the past to being in the future to being in the past again to, hey, there's a Justice League in here. It to me it didn't fit week to or month to month as a title that I wanted to keep reading. And I know for a lot of readers, especially when they had those filler Legion issues, they jumped off.
Yeah.
Because and it was sad because at that end of what was it, issue 6, when like the Steel guys defeated or whatever. It's before, like, something big happens, and then we break to something else for 2 months, and then we come back to finish the story.
Right.
I think that really, really hurt Action overall. I didn't really. Superboy was whatever, and Supergirl was whatever, but I think Action was the biggest disappointment.
Okay, Toby.
Well, I didn't get it. So it's kind of funny. The new 52 was supposed to make Superman the staple again and bring people back, and it didn't do that for me at all. And I didn't care before, and I didn't care now, so it's kind of sad because I do like Superman as a character a lot.
Sure.
Superboy early on was a surprise. I kind of fell off on it. I do feel Superboy is more a Teen Titans book, same as Red Hood and the Outlaws. I really do feel those two books really don't belong to like Justice or Batman family or the Superman family, and actually belong to the Teen Titans universe. Supergirl kind of went nowhere, I feel like, and they could have done cool things with it. So, I don't know. I'm fairly disappointed with the whole universe or the whole family book. So I don't know. Yeah, Superboy could have been really cool, and
It wasn't.
we'll go from there.
Charlie.
So for the best, I'm going to actually say Superboy because out of the 12 issues, it probably had the most I enjoyed, which was like 5.
So the editorial
default.
thing I think is applying to the Superman family.
You're all fired.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So the worst, my brain's kind of going around in a circle going, but how is that worse than this? And how is that worse than this? Because they were all pretty goddamn bad.
Yeah.
Okay, action's the best. You're all idiots. Superman's the worst. That's the answer. Okay, let's move on.
No, what's your reasons why?
We know.
Jeff Johns. I almost said Jeff Johns. Grant Morrison.
Hey, if Jeff Johns was on it, my list would be different.
Exactly.
But Morrison's herky jerky. You're welcome for him, guy.
Grant Morrison. I mean, what else do you need? It's all over the place. Sure, that's Grant Morrison. It's great. It's like this bonkers history of Superman. He's Black Superman. There's Superman in the Legion. There's Superman in the future. There's Superman fighting Lex Luthor. It's awesome and it's all good.
Don't make Charlie angry. You don't want to see Charlie angry. He's turning
We still have
red.
a lot to go through, plus our top 5.
No.
So make
I want to
it
get fired.
Real quick.
I want to get fired.
Real quick.
So part of what's got me lost on action is the fact that my brain has started to associate it with Loeb's run on the Superman Batman book with the let's make things make as little sense as possible and then just explain it on Mixius Pitlick.
But I actually like the Loeb's run on Superman Batman.
But I don't consider it a good sign of writing if the only way you can explain your story is with fifth dimensional characters.
Sure. Okay, Green Lantern. Let's get out of this. Okay, let's keep going. Green Lantern Corps, Green Lantern New Guardians, and Red Lanterns. I already know what you're all going to say. Brock, go ahead.
My top pick would have to be obviously Green Lantern.
Okay.
Keep
it short.
Lowest pick probably Red Lanterns.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Toby, you've read any of the Green Lantern stuff?
Some. I feel like my interest is more with New Guardians than any of the other books, but that could be just me.
Charlie.
No
You
real
already
reason.
know my answer.
Green Lantern and Red Lanterns.
Yeah,
okay.
I-
For me, honestly, Green Lantern's my favorite. I can't pick. All the Green Lantern books are really good. Green Lantern's just a little bit better, but I may pick New Guardians as my least favorite.
Ooh.
But that's that's not by a lot. It's just it just maybe is my least favorite.
Because you like red. You like raging.
I do.
Like, you literally put your fist
Especially
to the
if
sky
it's on
and scream.
Tuesday.
And if there was more rage in the Red Lantern book, I'd be happier.
Young Justice, Teen Titans, Blue Beetle, Legion of Superheroes, Legion Lost, and the Ravagers. Brock.
That's a weird combination.
Yeah.
It's like almost
I
like...
didn't hate the calling as much as all of you did.
Huh.
Brock, go ahead.
No.
Can
it's
you
funny.
say the list one more time?
Yeah, it's a weird
Teen
list.
Titans, Blue Beetle, Legion of Superheroes, Legion Lost, and the Ravagers.
Wait, did you see Blue... Oh,
Yeah,
which
Blue
Blue Beetle? It's the young one, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, never mind. It makes sense now.
Jaime Reyes.
I like Legion Lost the best out of that group.
Okay.
Least the Ravagers. I mean, I didn't read Teen Titans very much except for the calling stuff, but coming out of the calling and that's the title that you go with, it was really, really bad. So, yeah, that's mine.
Toby.
I like the Titans, even though I think I fell off on that one too. And partly because Young Justice is so much cooler than the Teen Titans book. I did not care for the Ravagers, even though, I like the artist from the 90s. And
Yeah.
Fairchild was in it.
yeah, and my Fairchild is in it. I had a lot of hope for a really, really, really cool return of the Gen 13 cast being back together and having a new voice. And I feel like the more I read, the less likely it's going to happen. And the more they don't know what to do with the characters, the more they're screwing them over and falling them apart and tear them further away than they were supposed to be. So...
Well, I think I'd have to agree with you. I think the Legion characters, the Legion books in here should be removed, and they should put Superboy
Yeah.
and, like,
Yeah.
Red
No.
Hood in
They
this.
totally, that's their family books.
Yeah.
That's where it should go. And if that's the editorial, they should move those books around. Maybe take the Ravagers out, actually make a Gen 13 book. That would be my dream. But, what was it going to sell? That's it. Never mind.
Charlie.
It's actually kind of funny.
Okay.
Because I've been really harsh on the Teen Titans book, especially after the Colin crossover. But all in all, it's got me the most interested to keep reading. So I'd have to say that's the best, because that's always the sign of a good book, is if you want to keep reading it. Blue Beetle for me is the worst. I mean, it's not even that I have no interest in the character. It's just every time I read the character, I feel like I've already read that.
Yeah, I get that. For me, Brock, I'm going to have to go with you. I think Legion Lost is my favorite of these ones. My least favorite is Legion of Superheroes. And not that it's my least... Not that I actually like Blue Beetle less. I didn't even read the Blue Beetle past the first few issues, but I'm the most disappointed with Legion of Superheroes.
I want to ask you a question. So
I
where are
love the
you
Legion.
at in the Legion book?
I'm like on 9s or 10s right now, so I'm like...
Because
Just like an
I
issue 2
actually
behind.
liked the second arc better than the first, so I was just
Of
curious.
Legion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like Legion doesn't... Again, kind of like Dark Knight, I just don't get what's going on. I just feel kind of lost, and I'm like...
Well, I think Legion of Superheroes had a decent going into the New 52 beforehand. It was a fair thing that was going on, but then again, it was one of those things where I think even Paul Levitz was irritated about having to renumber the book and start over and do all this stuff over again,
Right.
when he had kind of had this idea in mind. So I think that's one of the ones where the creative kind of like, this is my plan, kind of got cut.
Yeah.
And it was a decent plan, so now it's kind of floundering.
Yeah,
It's not.
yeah.
You don't really know where it's going.
I think I finally figured out why I have trouble reading Legion sometimes, and why I actually like the second story arc better than the first. When it's jumping around a lot between a lot of different planets with a lot of different characters with a lot going on, as somebody who doesn't know all the characters inside and out and doesn't know all these worlds, and like you do something like that on Doctor Who, and I'm there, I know exactly what's going on. You do something like that with Star Trek, I'm there, I know exactly what's going on. But you plot me in any of those universes and tell a story like that, jumping around a lot, and I just get lost. See, I get lost with Legion.
Well,
But,
the Legion book should be in its own family, too.
Second
Yeah.
story arc was very sort of concise on...
It's where they're fighting the Dominators, right? That's the arc.
Yeah,
that's going
where
on
they
right now?
kidnap 2 of the members,
Yeah.
and everything's happening on where the 2 members were kidnapped. That's easy to follow, and basically the home world where there's the whole politics and everything going
Right.
on there. So it just was a very sort of concise, easy to follow Legion story for me, which
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed.
Now, as an outsider of the Legion, I never got into it just because I never understood all the characters, never knew all the characters. Maybe this is a book. I don't know. It might already do it. Have backup stories where it's on the individual characters to it. Maybe like put more
They did
backgrounds
have
on
that.
them. Or
They did have that before.
Yeah.
This happened. But I think what also hurt Legion was that Legion Secret Origin book miniseries that came
Well, that
out.
was terrible.
That was horrid.
All right, we got 2 more to go through here real quick, and then let's do our top list. We can do this fast because we're running out of time. The Edge, which is all the random stuff. All-Star Western, Deathstroke, Suicide Squad, Stormwatch, and Grifter. And GI Combat. And of course, this is also we're not counting the books that have been canceled or are going away, so that's why there's a few things that haven't been on this list. We're trying to just go with the current ongoings. Brock,
Tie. It would have to be Suicide Squad and All Star Western out of that series.
what's your least favorite?
My least favorite would have to be Deathstroke. That book had such,
One. Well, I mean, in general, or 1 through 8, and then now we're 9 and up.
basically 9 and up.
Yeah,
you know, and the same thing with Grifter. I mean, I didn't get into the GI Combat because it just wasn't in, so I can't really say anything about that. And then what was the other title on there?
Suicide Squad. Oh, Stormwatch.
Stormwatch. I was just confused reading it, so I'm not gonna it was what. So I think that
Guess which was my favorite.
and I guess that to me, I think that comes from not reading the Authority beforehand. So,
Well, it's kind of funny because the Stormwatch book had 2 things going for it and hurting it. Mm-hmm. They introduced a lot of new characters in that, or characters that, having read the early Authority and stuff, I wasn't familiar with. And that kind of hurt the book initially. But then they also added characters like Martian Manhunter that actually helped the book. So I can kind of see it both ways, where they were trying to changed things around a little too much.
But to me, that wasn't the worst. The worst was Deathstroke and Grifter, where, I mean, especially Deathstroke, where you have this decent story arc, and then it turns to shit.
Yeah.
So,
Toby, you like or dislike any of those?
Yeah, well, I had a lot. Well, you all know me. I talk about the same things over and over. Like, Grifter had such potential to be established as such a badass in the DC universe, and it did not happen, and didn't happen again, and didn't happen again. So, yeah, I'm fairly disappointed with Grifter. Deathstroke too. The same reason as Brocco here. Yeah, I hear Demon Knights is really awesome. I really want to read it. Haven't gone there yet, but
is Demon Knights on the
No, Demon Knights is
that
on
was
the
not
dark.
on this list.
No, Demon Knights is on the dark.
Oh, well, I don't read enough to say anything. So
You're
all good.
reading Suicide Squad?
I read some of them. I liked them, but I don't read. I maybe read like 4 random issues. Kind of pick them by what I feel like was on the cover. Kind of like the old days. I look at cover. I'm like, hey, this could be an interesting issue. I'll read it. So that's kind of where I am at.
Hit me, Charlie.
Okay, so All-Star Western.
That's the one I meant to say. Sorry.
Love All-Star Western. I'm a Jonah Hex guy, so. And even though I wish he'd get out of Gotham City a little bit more, still a great book. For worst, I would say Grifter with a slight caveat. I do feel it got better when Liefeld took over, but that doesn't mean it came far enough for me to really go from being like it went from being bad to decent rather than from bad to good. On the side stroke, I kind of feel like Deathstroke went from good to decent. So like he moved one book up one level and one book down one level. He didn't. It just went all to decent.
What?
Did you say on the side stroke? On the other side, Deathstroke. On the side stroke. Okay. Maybe I misheard that, but that's what I heard.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
I'm not trying to laugh at you, Charlie. For me, Stormwatch gets my best pick. I love Stormwatch. I love Paul Cornell. It's like a Grant Morrison light. It's like the first couple years of Grant Morrison's JLA, just with Stormwatch characters. It's so good. Worst is going to be Deathstroke. I actually really like 1 through 8 and 9 and on. It's just so can't do it. Yep. All right, the Dark. I'm going to wrap up here. Justice League Dark, Swamp Thing, Animal Man, Frankenstein, Eye of Vampire, Demon Knights, and Dial H. Brock.
Ooh, Dial H.
Swamp Thing and Animal Man. You can't
Pick
separate
one.
those. You can't separate them.
Pick
I'm sorry,
one.
you cannot separate those books. The Rot with the green, you can't, and the red, you can't separate it.
Pick one.
Spoken by a real nerd.
I know. The worst Dial H. I tried 4 issues.
No
I
go. I
really-
like the old Dial H. Maybe that's why I'm happy about it. I haven't read the new one yet.
That book, like the first issue, it was fun, and it was nice to kind of see them going for it. But the story that they went with, it didn't fulfill anything.
Yeah.
And it kind of like even the guy that had the dial, kind of you lost sense of who he was. You were like, here, let's introduce you to this character, and then let's just follow these people around.
Yeah.
So
Well, they also didn't really make that character really likable.
yeah, and I don't mind if a character's not likable, but at least keep me interested, like keep me going with it. You know, don't just say here's an unlikable character and now follow everyone else around. So yeah,
It's funny
so.
if like a known superhero is dialing that phone and gets other powers.
Toby.
Well, Demon Knights now, even though I haven't read it. No, I mean I enjoyed the early issues of Dark, Justice League Dark. That is.
Yep.
The rest of the titles just never interested me. So.
Charlie.
So Dial H is definitely the worst. But that being said, I'm having a really hard time figuring out the best because I can definitely say I Vampire is not the best, but I've still really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed every other title you listed there. Like I look forward to reading these every time they come out, so it's really hard.
The Dark is
But-
definitely the hardest pick for me, too.
But I'd probably settle on Demon Knights just because that book came out of left field for me and I love it.
Yeah, The Dark is easily my hardest pick. I'm gonna go with I, Vampire is my favorite, even though that's not on my list, and other books on here are going to be on my top 5 list. I'm going to put I, Vampire as my favorite because that book really surprised me.
Yeah.
I remember when Comic Book Resources did their they're like, what books are you looking forward to, like on a scale of 1 to 5? I, Vampire was the lowest book of the New 52. And I'm so happy that book is phenomenal. I mean, the art's amazing. The stories are super fun. They do a great like switcheroo halfway through the series. So, I, Vampires. Dial H is my least favorite. Doesn't mean I don't like it. I actually do kind of like Dial H. I've only read the first 2 so far, so maybe I haven't hit the bad ones yet. But I've enjoyed what I've read so far. But it's my least favorite of all of them. So, all right, that is our picks. But then we have. And we got to do this, a little quick. Our top 5 list. These are the 5 books that, from issue 1 to now, these are the 5 that we're the most happy with. These lists may contradict the lists we just made because that's the way these things work. So that's fine. Brock, ramble a little bit, but I don't want to overbill my I don't want to overbill my fee here. So let's do this.
I'll just have to go Justice League.
Are these in any sort of order, or just top 5? Okay,
just top 5. Justice League, Green Lantern. I can't separate the rot and the red and the green, so I got to say Swamp Thing and Animal Man are pretty much. There's no way to move
Brock
them
just
up and
can't
down.
divide books up. You can't put them
so amazing.
You can't put them in order, and you have to put multiple books in the same slot. What's wrong with you? Top 5,
dude. This week it is literally like. I put those books in alphabetical order at the bottom of my pile, and that's how I read them because I can't decide to read them.
I shouldn't say anything. I had a top 10 last time.
Unless there's like with Rot World, it's easy because there's part numbers. But before, I couldn't literally separate out where I was going to put Animal Man and Swamp Thing every week. Suicide Squad has been consistently fun and just great. And then the last one, let's see. I guess I'll have to go with the last one, which is I'll just throw it out, which is Resurrection Man, just because it's sad to see that book go. I really hope that we finish it out great, like Charlie says, but I've really really enjoyed that character. So
there you go.
Was that
that's your 5? Yeah. Toby.
Wonder Woman, Justice League. I don't know. And I don't even feel like Justice League should be up there for me. But
I know you're not caught up on a lot of the current stuff. So
maybe we'll have a top 2.
You've been buying it. You've been picking up other stuff. Though pretty consistently.
I'm trying. I'm basically my top 5 consists of books that I'm most caught up on. So
yeah.
Go Charlie, go.
Okay, so I have no particular order. Justice League, Green Lantern, Batgirl, Batman, and Demon Knights.
Anything to say about them?
Batgirl's been just a really enjoyable read from issue to issue, very consistent. And where I complain about lack of established villains on stuff like Superman, just because the villains are very one-dimensional, not interesting, the villains created on Batgirl have been very interesting and sort of mirror what Barbara's going through, and I like that. What more can I say about Batman? Batman's just Scott Snyder Batman.
I knew there was something I forgot off my list. It was Tide. Damn it.
That's what you get for putting multiple books in your slot.
That's okay.
Justice League and Green Lantern, Jeff Johns' awesomeness. That's all I really have to say. I love Jeff Johns, and those are. If you gave me a 6th slot, I'd have Aquaman.
I wanted to do my list just by creators.
Yeah. And then, Demon Knights, as I said, it really works for me.
That's Paul Cornell, right?
Yeah.
And he does Stormwatch? I completely and utterly agree with you. Demon Knights is fantastic. How in the hell does a fantastic book like Demon Knights, and then the guy writes some complete and utter Morrison-light stuff in Stormwatch?
Here, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. He writes all night. He starts with Demon Knights, and he starts at 8 p.m., ends about 4 a.m., and then he spends another 2 hours writing the other book, and then he goes to sleep.
He wrote for Doctor Who, right? I mean, he's one of the Doctor Who writers. Paul Cornell? Yeah.
Didn't know that, actually.
Yeah.
Doctor Who's awesome.
Yep.
Can we have Doctor Who segments starting on this podcast?
No.
Come on! I'm going to have to come in on the Geekbox one just for that part.
Yes.
All right. For me, I got to pick the Holy Trinity here. Holy Trinity of Jeff Johns, Grant Morrison, and Scott Snyder.
You're taking my idea.
That's Justice League.
Too late
for Jeff Johns. I mean, Jeff Johns, Jim Lee, Justice League. Despite the fill-ins, despite everything, it's like, come on, we've been waiting for this book forever.
Hey, the villains were good. Carlos Danda.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying they're not. Batman's blown everything else away. I mean, Batman has been amazing, and this next arc with the Joker is gonna. I mean, this is gonna cement Scott Snyder as one of the premier Batman writers of the last 50 years. Action Comics. I love it. Everyone else hates it. That's fine. It's Grant Morrison. It's Superman. It's crazy. It's got the Legion, time travel. What else can you say? Animal Man. Animal Man has been such an amazing book. I've loved Animal Man since Grant Morrison reintroduced him back in the 80s. And I just, it's the best of, it's so much fun just having the superhero, but with the family stuff. It's just super cool. And I got my fifth pick actually could be Justice League Dark. For me, it's like my 16-year-old self's fan fiction scripts came to life.
You're just waiting for Sandman to pop.
Oh my god! And you know it's gonna happen. And
Ryan just jizzed in his pants.
They're gonna run into Morpheus, and I'm gonna be like, "Thank you, God," because even if it's kind of goofy that all the Vertigo characters are hanging out, and even if some people don't like that they're back in the DC universe or whatever, I mean, I love it. I don't care. But it is like this crazy fan fiction thing come to life, and it's so.
What
much
would you
fun.
do if they brought the Endless into the DC universe?
I mean, well, they are. I mean, they almost are in the DC universe, and I think they could do it with Sandman. I think they have to be very careful with it. One story, very limited. Neil Gaiman kind of sign off like he did with Grant Morrison during Justice League,
or had Daniel,
or with Death in Action Comics. I mean, I think it's okay to have them in, but I wouldn't want to see like Delirium on the. Well, maybe I would.
Can you imagine Delirium on Justice League Dark?
Awesome. She could take over for Shade the Changing Man. So Justice League Dark, dude. It's like we're gonna go team up. It's so good. I love it so much. I think those are our top 5 lists, and they'll change tomorrow because that's the way top 5 lists always work. They're never the same twice. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, DC Comics, for publishing some comics we like, and thank you, everyone, for listening. I'm sure all you Marvel fans have checked out. I actually joked earlier about this episode. Will we be doing a Marvel Now 1 year later? And the answer is probably not.
Probably not?
I don't even know if we're going to do a Marvel Now episode. I would if there was any sort of... I mean, we will be talking about them, but, I didn't want to end on bashing Marvel. but DC's, I think, whole success with the New 52 has been that they launched them all in the same month, all number ones, very specific focus. And again, I don't want to bash Marvel, but I think that's a failing of the Marvel Now idea. But... there's obviously been a huge success for DC, and I hope they drop the New 52 title. I hope they just call it the 52, or don't call it anything.
I don't really think it needs to be called anything. I mean,
just drop the new.
You're peeled DC now, so
yeah. I think we got in time for one last comment. Anyone? Brock? Everyone, throw in your last words.
My only comment is I will at least talk about the New 52 books. Not New 52. The Marvel Now books I either love or hate as they come out.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely talk about them. But I mean, I think having this one launch,
we won't be able to have a review kind of like
the one episode,
like a very specific episode, like we've done in the past with this.
We could do one episode a month where we touch on the books that came out that month.
Yeah. Like 2 books. 3 books or 4?
No, it's going to be 12 books because they're double a month.
Yeah.
No, but he's talking about the number ones. So it'd be like 4
but we
a
can
month.
wait till they're all out and do like one all together.
Yeah. Well, if you hated these episodes, you don't have to worry because we hit the 1 month, the 6 month, and the 1 year. I think we're pretty much done with these type of episodes for this.
Well,
of course,
we're not going to talk about the zeros.
Well, that's a little bit different. And then, of course, I'm not going to say we can't have the whole episode all about the Trinity War, and then the whole episode when they give relaunch back to the old 52 universe, and Toby's super happy. Yeah, you can talk about those whenever you want.
Because we can finish
those out.
We'll be
super happy.
So, all right, we're going to wrap up. We're every time here. If you want to listen to this episode for whatever reason, again, as well as all the other episodes for whatever reason, all 72 other episodes, you can go to www.geekbox.net, or you can go to comicsconspiracy.biz, and you can download these episodes. They're all in there. Fun times. You can go on forums at geekbox.net, talk to other forum regulars. Finally think we solved the spam problem, so your account should be verified. You just have to fill out a little thing. I don't think we have a bunch of spam crap on there. Finally got this all sorted. I swear to God, I hope so. If you want to visit us on all our various other things we do, Brock's got conspiratorBrock.com. You can go read his ramblings on there. Omar, who's not here, but is here in spirit as always. Comics and Decline. You can go visit his site there. Charlie's on the Infinite Longbox podcast, so go listen to that. You can find it on iTunes and Libsyn and all those. What else we got? That's it. We're all on the Twitter. Brock Sager, Comics and Decline is Omar. Toby XI is Toby. Insanity in Chaos is Charlie. Charlie, switch your handle to something reasonable.
But that's the only one you never screw up on.
Yeah. I know. I'm Ryan Higgins Ryan, and hopefully that asshole Ryan Higgins will get off Twitter and I can get that Twitter account. It's really pissing me off. He's still on there with this stupid dog face avatar and one tweet.
Is he actually posting?
No, he never does.
Active?
No.
Why don't you contact him?
Makes me so mad.
Can you direct
I have
him?
various times. No, at various times I've sent a message like, "Give me your Twitter name."
He's not going to respond to that.
You asshole, give me your Twitter.
You asshole, give me your Twitter name.
Just my name.
And don't forget to listen to our parent podcast.
Of course,
Geekbox.
the Geekbox and the Comedy Button and Good Job Brain.
They don't
those real
pimp us
podcasts.
out. I
No, they
don't
don't.
want to pimp them out anymore.
Yeah.
Let's just pimp ourselves because they
Are we
don't. They
going to
don't pimp
boycott
us.
now?
No, Ryan, Geekbox. They pimped this episode, so that's fine. Comedy Button and Good Job Brain, they're their own thing. That's fine. They're their own production. They're not part of the store. So
because Comedy Button pimps out the Geek Box.
because Ryan's on there, so it's all good. We're not that petty, so it's fine. All right, well, we'll catch everyone next week for maybe some Zero talk, some annual talk, something else. I'm sure something comical will happen in the next week.
Yeah,
maybe?
something funny.
If
might
not,
happen
then
in the
Brock
next
will
week.
just go loose again.
Yeah,
We should just let me go loose once a year.
Well, once a year maybe.
Once, then we'll be referencing to it for the rest of the year.
The annual event. Brock goes loose.
All right, guys. Well, catch you next week.
There's going to be an episode where we just put some drug into Ryan's drink and have him be all weird.
No, we don't want that.
Yes, we do.
Okay, now we'll go on. Bye.